Alright, so we can begin by adding in our reference image by pressing Shift A, going down to Image, and then clicking Reference. This will be available for you to download, so make sure you have that ready. Okay, so once I've added in the reference image, what I want to do is have it be in our front view. So when I press my tilde key and go to front, I want it to be placed like perfectly in front of us like so. So the way we do that is to make sure our reference image is selected, and then I will press Alt R to clear the rotation, and then I will press R, X, and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis, and then I will just press the Enter key. So I will go to front view, and then what I can do is just scale it up a bit. And then I will press G, Z, and move it up until it's touching like the red X-axis line. Alright, so that's pretty much all the setup that we need to do. So what I can do is just select the default cube, the camera, and the light by holding down Shift, and then I will press X to delete. So as you can see, we have all of the chess pieces here. Well, not all of them. If you play chess, you probably picked up on the fact that there is no horse or knight piece, as it's properly called. This is because it's by far the most technical piece to create. And when we get onto that in the later videos, we will have both the front and the side view. So for now, we will be focusing on the pawn, the rook, the bishop, the king, and the queen, which are much simpler to create. So I guess we can start off with creating the pawn, which is probably the simplest out of all of them. So we can start by pressing Shift A, go to Mesh, and then the first thing we are going to add in is a circle. And before we do anything to the circle, I want to go down to this bottom left-hand panel here, left click on it, and then change the vertices from 32 to 60. This is a nice round number, and it gives our object a bit more detail. So now I will just press G and then X to move on the X-axis, and then move it around here to the center of the pawn, and then I will tab into edit mode like so. So as you can see, when we tab into edit mode, we have all of the vertices selected. I'll just press S to scale down, and until it's around the same size as the reference image. But again, we don't need to follow the reference image exactly. Just do whatever you think is right. Let me just select the reference image by right clicking, and then I will press G and Y to move it back like so, just so that it's not intersecting with the mesh. So I'll go into front view by pressing my tilde key, and then we can start creating the shape of our pawn. So to do that, we will tab back into edit mode, and all we're really going to be doing in this tutorial is just tracing out the shape by extruding and scaling inwards to get the main body of the pawn. And then afterwards, we will be adding in higher detail through the use of beveling and the bevel modifier. So we can start by pressing E and then Z to move up on the Z axis. So by pressing Z, it locks onto the Z axis. And then I'll press left click to confirm my selection. I'll press E to extrude, Z. And because I want to see the reference image while also seeing my vertices, what I can do is press Alt Z to go into X-ray mode, and then I will press S to scale, and then push G and Z to bring up like so. Alright, and then I will press E to extrude, right click, which makes me cancel the selection. However, we still got the vertices selected, or cancel the movement, I should say. And then I will press S to scale down inwards like so. And then if I just go above, you can see the effect that it has. So we have this flat area here. Go back into front view, press Alt Z for X-ray mode. And then I will press E, make sure to press Z to lock onto the Z axis. Bring it up to about here. And then press E, Z, bring it up to about here. And then press S to scale like so. Press G and Z maybe. Yep. Alright. And then I will press E, once again, Z, bring it up like so, and then E, right click, S to scale inwards. And then since the pawn comes in a bit more, or I guess it tapers in, what we'll do is press E, Z, Press S to scale down, and as you can see, we're getting that slanted effect. So I'll push G and Z to bring it down, S to scale outwards. Again, just trying to match the reference image, but not trying to be perfectly aligned with it. So if I just go into regular view, this is how it looks. Maybe I want the thing to be a bit taller, so this is where I deviate slightly from the reference image. However, just do whatever you think is right. So I'll press E once again, this time right click, and we won't bring it up on the Z axis just yet. So I'll press S to scale outwards like so. And then if I just check my mesh, this is how it looks. And then if I go into front view, I can press E, Z, and then press S to scale. Actually, maybe I changed my mind. So what I'll do is go into face select by pressing 3, alt click this edge here, and then just make it match up with the reference image like so. Yeah, I change my mind quite often. Anyway, so if I go into edge select mode, alt click this edge loop here, then I'll go into front view, scale in like so, press G and Z to bring it in or bring it up. And then the final bit we can do is just press E, right click, S, and then what I can do is just press G and Z to bring it down like so. So we've got the main body of our pawn. It's looking quite chunky at the bottom actually. Maybe what I can do is press 3 for face select, and then hold down the left mouse button to box select all of this, and then I can press S, Shift Z to make it a bit more narrow. I can do that with more of it by pressing S, Shift Z, like, oops, let me just do that again. S, Shift Z, and that narrows everything down a bit more. Again, it's just what you, I guess, think is right. What you prefer your pawn to look like. So the last thing for the basic modeling of our pawn is to add in the massive sphere at the top. So what I can do is tab into edit mode, and I'll go into edge select mode and alt click this edge loop here. And then we want to add in our UV sphere perfectly in the middle, because if I press Shift A and add in a UV sphere, it gets added over here, and then if we put it here, scale it down and move it here like so, we kind of have to do a lot of manual adjustments, and for the perfectionists out there, that's not very satisfying, so I'll just delete that. So what we can do is alt click this edge loop here, press Shift S, cursor to selected, and then press Shift A, and then add in a UV sphere. So then if I scale it down, it's going to be perfectly in the center of our pawn piece. So what I can do is just press G and Z to bring it up on the Z axis, and then press S to scale outwards like so. Let me just see how well that fits within the pawn piece. So if I just alt click this edge loop here, scale down, G and Z, bring it down a little bit, go into front view, press L to select just this UV sphere here, and then I can press G, Z, and then to slow down my movement, I hold down the shift button. So without the shift button, it moves up quite a lot. With the shift button, it moves down a bit more gradually. And I've noticed that I have the edge loop in the center selected, so I'll just right click, and then right click to deselect everything, and then I will press L, and okay, yeah, now the sphere is moving on. So I'll press G and Z to bring it down like so, until it's snugly fitting inside. It's not too much of an issue if anything overlaps, but we just want to hide any of the gaps. So that is the basic shape of our pawn piece done. Very simple. Maybe I'll just scale it up a bit more, and then press G and Z to bring it up. But yeah, so we can move on to beveling. Beveling is just adding more roundness to our edges so that it doesn't look too sharp. So the best place to demonstrate it will be here. So go into edge select or vertex select, it doesn't really matter. Press Alt and right click on your edge of choice, and then press Ctrl B, and this will enable bevel. And by dragging your mouse forwards and back, you can increase the angle of beveling. I like to keep this kind of small and hold down the shift button while doing so, just so that I have a bit more precision when doing this. And then I scroll up on my mouse wheel to get the angle that I want. So I can have it look something like this. So I'll do that for more of the edges. So I'll alt click this edge loop here. Maybe I'll bring it up on the Z axis like so, and then press Ctrl B, because it does matter where your edge is. So if I bring it down here and then bevel, you can see that it doesn't look like the rounded bits at the top. So sometimes you need to play with the position of your edge loop. But now I'll press Ctrl B, and if you scroll up and down on your mouse wheel, this will affect the amount of segments that you have. It doesn't really matter how many you have, since we're making a fairly small object, fairly low poly object. Having 3 or 4 segments is plenty. So I think here I had 4, which is good enough. Oh, one thing that we've forgotten is the bottom of our pawn. So just alt click this edge loop here and then press F to fill. So if we go into front view, we can also bevel that, having a bit more of a subtle bevel. So press Ctrl B, and then once again 4 segments is good enough. And as you can see, for in the reference image, we have a slightly different style of bevel. So if I just demonstrate it, our piece comes out, has a slight angle like so, and then it goes back in instead of the typical curve like so. So I'll show you how to do that through a different kind of method of beveling. So let me just undo that, go back into select mode and tab into edit mode. So the first thing I'll do is press Ctrl R to add in an edge loop, and then I will press S to scale like so. Then what I'll do is press Ctrl B for bevel, drag my mouse out, and then scroll down on my mouse wheel until I only have 2 segments. And then I can press S, Shift Z to scale on everything except the Z axis. And we have the effect as seen in the reference image. So I guess what I can do now is alt click this edge loop here and then press Shift Alt click this edge loop as well to select them both. And then I can bevel it like we've seen before. So again, this will be quite a small bevel, but it's always good to make sure that you don't have any sharp edges around your model. So we'll continue beveling. We can bevel this edge here. So this will be a I guess the inwards bevel. But again, it looks kind of nice, but I'll make sure to make it a bit more subtle. All right. And then we can just continue going up our model. So I can alt click this edge loop here, go into front view, and then press Ctrl B to bevel. So there's different styles of beveling your pieces. So you can have a bit more of a rounded effect to your piece by pressing Ctrl B and having a bigger angle, which means that your object is a lot more rounded. However, for me, I prefer having a bit more of a subtle, less rounded look to it, like so. So if I just drag it up, and this is something that I'm more happy with. And then for the final bit that we're going to bevel, it's going to be this outside edge here. So you can see it being selected. And then what I can do is just press Ctrl B, bevel, and this time I'll give it a bit more of a nice rounded edge like so. So that's pretty much it for all of the beveling for our pawn. And then what we can do is just press W and then a shade auto smooth like so, so that our pawn is looking nice and smooth. So I guess that's it for the first part of our chess set. In the next video, we will be modeling the rook, a bit more complex in design. However, it's still very basic modeling stuff. So I guess I will see you in the next one.